but maybe you're not converting interviews not because you haven't done the lead code. You've done over 300, 400 problems in lead code, but you still can't convert interviews. You still can't get past through that technical phone screen for the love of God. And it's not even because you don't know your stuff. It's not because you don't know your algorithms. It's not because you can't problem solve when you're on your own. It's because the interview setting in its own self makes you very, very nervous. Maybe you even have moments or memories of getting into interview and you get so nervous that you blank out and you can't even remember what you studied or what you learned. It could be even a question you've seen prior, but for the love of God, you can't seem to help yourself to get through a technical screen or an on-site. If you are feeling that way, you are my person, and you are exactly the person I want to talk to today, because I was going through that experience and I found a way to alleviate some of those situations or stressors that sort of get in the way of you being able to clear your interviews. So I came with some advice and 3 things that I wanted to share with you guys that I think will be super helpful to get through that and to make sure that you increase your chances of getting a yes from these top tech companies. So yeah, if you're getting nervous, if you can't seem to get through interviews, but you seem to do well outside of an interview setting, this video is for you. So the first thing that I want to share with you is that you're not abnormal. It's not abnormal to get through that. Interviews naturally are a stressful situation. They're not normal. It's not a normal situation. You will never have a situation on your job where you're working and someone is looking over your shoulder, writing down notes about how you're working. That's a pretty weird situation to be in. So I wanted to validate how you feel, that yes, how you feel is normal, that you feel nervous in those situations, but there are things that you can do to make sure that you still are successful in those interviews. And that at some point, if you work on those things, you may actually start enjoying the process of interviewing. I think I'm in a process where I'm very close to fully enjoying the process. There's still aspects of that I don't like about interviewing. And it's usually the aftermath that comes after interviewing, like when those emotions go really up and you find that high, that dopamine hit when you do that interview, and then that low after the interview, especially when you think the results may not be good or decent. That low is what I'm still trying to deal with. But the interview part where I get nervous, initially I used to get super nervous in interviews, and I would barely be able to do much. I remember last year in November when I took the Pinterest interview, I blanked out completely. Like, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. They gave me a really tough question as well. At some point I was just looking at the screen, like literally, and I was just like, yeah, this is not gonna work out. It's just not going to work out. I'm not going to get this job. And that happened in my earlier Google interview as well in October, end of October, when I had my Google interview last year. I had the same problem. But later on, I would have the same interview a few months later, and I would perform much better, significantly much better than I did the first time. And this is exactly what I did. First thing, and this is going to sound like, it's gonna sound like I'm saying this is how you survive a fire by saying get in the fire, but I think that's the first most important thing. I remember I used to have a lot of stage fright growing up, and I was like, man, I want to get rid of stage fright because I really love debating. I love speaking in front of people, but then I was scared to speak in front of people. I wanted to be a debater so bad. I wanted to speak in front of people. I thought it was so cool. So I went to my debate coach and I said, hey, I really want to be part of the debate team, but I'm so scared of speaking in front of people. And can you help me figure out how to alleviate this stress? I can't even speak. I start stammering. I feel like something is rising up in me. He looked at me. He's like, oh, I have a fix for you. It's simple. And I was like, what is it? And I was super excited. My eyes were dilated. I was like, this is going to change my life. And he told me, debate more. Be in front of people more. Like, do more speeches, do more debates, and you'll be ready to go. And so exactly that's what I want to say to you guys. The first thing that I have for you out of 3 is do more interviews. So do mock interviews. Do as many mocks as you can. Have your friends mock you. Have your relatives mock you. Even if they're not technical at all, just sit with them. Like in the beginning, I would have my fiance, then my wife now, sit with me. She's not an engineer, but I would just, she would interview me like she's from the company. She would even introduce herself saying, hey, um, she would even introduce herself saying, hey, I'm this and this and that from Meta. I'm here to interview you, and then would get into the interview. And just that experience of being able to talk to someone and tell them my ideas and how I would solve the problem significantly helped me. So I settled with my wife, and then I moved on to my friends, like my friends, my network, people that I knew that worked at these companies that I was interviewing with. I would ask them for mock interviews, and then I started taking more mock interviews on websites like Premp, just to get that, to get more of those interviews. And the nice thing about doing those mock interviews, like the ones that Premp offers you for free, is that you get to interview someone and they get to interview you. So that's another part that I wanted to also share. So do the initial interviews where you're the interviewee throughout, and then also do interviews where you also get a chance to interview someone. And what that helps you with is understanding that these things are hard. So you get to see how the interviewer may have seen your performance as well. When I started doing this kind of interviews, and now I do these one-on-one coaching sessions where I also do mock interviews for people, it's been incredibly helpful for me as well, because I start realizing and I start seeing, and in the program that I'm part of, where I'm an ambassador for Brilliant Black Minds, where I get to interview and help black professionals trying to get into tech. I also have been doing interviews with them, like helping other people as well. And what I've realized over and over again is like it has helped me build empathy, not only for other people, but in me building empathy and seeing how tough this thing is for them while they're solving this problem. I get to also extend empathy for myself, that these problems, I'm not dumb, right? I'm not dumb. It's just that they just happen to be hard. Solving problems in this setting is quite hard. So doing those mock interviews will help you build that empathy piece that you may not have for yourself. And you also have an understanding of what it feels like to be on the other side, which may also help you when you're getting interviews. Like, for example, one of the things I learned, I started seeing things that I do and how they look to the other people. Because when you interview so many people, you start realizing, you start seeing pictures of yourself in other people, right? Maybe there are things that you do. Maybe you take a lot of time being silent. Maybe you talk too much. Maybe you do whatever. When you see someone do it and you know how it feels like as an interviewer, it helps you adjust next time you interview. But also, on the flip side of that, if you see someone do something that you really, really liked, like I've learned a lot from interviewing people. I'm like, oh, wow, you can do that in JavaScript? Wow, you can do that in Java? Shoot, when my interview comes, I'm going to do the same exact trick, right? So you're learning these tricks, you're learning these ways of problem solving that you're finding to be good and exciting. So I would definitely advise doing mocks. So that's number one. Number two, when you now get in the interview, think of the interview as like you're just chatting with a coworker. If you can't imagine them being already a coworker of yours, imagine them as a future coworker. Imagine them as a friend, right? So that's the power of initially when you're doing your mock interviews, so do them with family and friends, because what that does is that you get used to just like, having your friends watch you solve problems. So and if you do Premp or any of these interview companies, or if you reach out to me to do one-on-one sessions, you also get that feeling of like you're just working with a stranger that is not really a stranger. This is someone who could be a future coworker. This is someone, so think of it as like they're already your coworker and you've been given a problem to solve together. You just happen to be the person who is leading on solving that problem. Think of that as you're just pair programming with them. Even though in this pair programming, you're having to lead the pair programming. You're having to be the one who has the keyboard. Just think of it as that, and you'll relieve some of that pressure that you have on yourself. And don't think about, and as you do that, right? Don't worry too much about the future, right? Don't worry too much about how you're coming off. Just like it is when you're working with a coworker, you just think about the present moment. You're just solving that problem. And another thing that I've seen that really helps me, if I'm still struggling to see that person as a coworker, think of it as like it's someone who already knows you and think that you're smart. So when we think that people think that we're smart, the way that we behave is very differently from the way that we behave if we're trying to prove that we're smart. I think I've honestly seen that every time that I get into an interview trying to prove something, whether it's behavioral or technical, I end up losing on that interview. I end up being more nervous in that interview because half the time I'm thinking in my head, okay, what do they think of me? Okay, do they think I'm smart? Okay, do they think I'm capable of doing this? And that gets in the way of me showing up as my full, authentic self. So I really highly advise that think of all these things that you want them to think of you. So for me, I want them to think that I'm smart. I want them to think that I can solve these problems. I want them to think that I'm good at communication. I want them to think that I'm smooth. I want them to think that I'm someone fun to work with. So what I do is I tell myself that. I tell myself when I get in an interview that the interviewer thinks those things of me. So that already relieves a lot of the pressure of trying to prove that I am all those things. And then I can just get to focus on the problem. And then I can just have to enjoy and solve the puzzle. And so that's the second piece. The third piece is just enjoy the interview, man. Just enjoy the interview. Because 90% of these interviews that we take, you may not get them. Especially in this market, you're probably only my success rate has been probably like 10% or maybe 20%. Like I get one of 5 interviews that I do, I'm successful in those throughout, right? Getting an offer is a different thing, but getting through from like phone screen to on-site, that's success. That's huge success. And so what I wanted to say is that like, make sure that you're just enjoying the process. Someone once told me that, this came from theater. So I used to do theater in high school. I actually played 12th Night as Duke Orsino, right? And I really enjoyed the play. And one of the things that my teacher, Miss Brown and Bai, told me is that if you're having fun on stage, then probably everybody else is having fun, right? If you're in your character and you're just enjoying it. And I've seen that too through doing public speaking and poetry, because I used to do a lot of slam poetry and poetry and performance, and I used to enjoy that quite a lot. And whenever I did a performance and that I felt nervous, I would see it on their faces that people felt sorry for me. They wanted to give me a hug. But in the performance that I was truly enjoying what I was doing, even though I had no idea what the hell I was doing and I was making stuff up, people enjoy the hell out of those performances. And that's the same thing. Like, interviewing is an art. It's almost like a performance. It's almost like theater. So when you show up, make sure that you personally are having a lot of fun. If you're having fun, your interviewer is probably also having fun. So those are the 3 main strategies I wanted to share with you. And lastly, I just wanted to say, like, I was listening to one video of a hiring manager on YouTube talking about how to approach interviews, and they shared this piece of advice, and I wanted to share it with you as well. They said that at the end of the day, go there as someone who's excited to learn. If you're excited to learn, then you will, no matter how it goes, right, you learn something. So maybe you go there and they say no at the end of it. Like, maybe you did your best, but it just wasn't enough. But at the end of the day, you learned something. So for you, it could be like, oh, I'm just excited to learn more about how Pinterest interviews people. I just want to know how the Google interviews will go. Like, just have fun with the process. Like, be part of the process. Don't worry too much about the outcomes. Just be present about whatever it is that you're learning, and don't think too much about how it's going to go. Because when you start doing something and you're thinking of how it will go, you're probably going to mess it up. And that's also advice from a coach. I watched... what's the name? Serena Williams, her coach. I think the guy is French. He has a very strong French accent. That guy, I saw him. I saw one of his Instagram videos where he was training one of his athletes, and he kept telling his athlete, "Dude, you're showing a lot of signs of nervousness because you keep thinking about how the ball is gonna go when you hit it, or where exactly it's going to go. You're trying to figure out where's this ball going to go before you even hit it. Stop doing that. Just hit the ball. Just hit the ball and see where it goes. And if it doesn't go where you want it, next time, hit it a little different." That's the same thing that I'm going to leave with you guys. Don't think of where the ball is going to fall. Don't think about that 500K on the other side. because what it's only going to do is it's only going to make you even way more nervous, and you won't be able to do and perform your interview. You won't be able to hit the ball where you want it. Just hit the ball where you think the best of where you want it to fall. And if it doesn't fall exactly where you want it to fall, try next time. Go iterate on your method. Go iterate on your hitting. And one of these days, you're going to hit it just in the right place. I wish you luck, and I hope this was helpful. Stay tuned and stay in the fight, man. Part of like interviewing, and especially in the market that we're in, it's really about the numbers, right? If you keep shooting, one of them are going to go in, man. Just one of these days, it's going to work out. Stay strong, guys. Take care.